Hey guys, nah. Hey guys, we have another reading. Um, I get bored with one book, with just the Bible. I like to switch it up. So we're probably gonna read more of the Bible today. But look, say what's up, Void. Say hey, Void. Look, look, look at the camera. Look, hey, look. Be hey, say hey. Yeah, Void doesn't want to talk. We're gonna read The Laws of Human Nature. I've been wanting to read this, but I just needed a reason to, So I'm just like, let's do this on the YouTube channel. See what knowledge we could get from this book. YouTube really gets me on my grind. Alright. We're on page 1. First chapter is Master Your Emotional Self. The Law of Irrationality. Who is this book made by? Robert Greene. See what Robert Greene has to say about the human laws of nature. Chapter 1. Master Your Emotional Self. You like to imagine yourself in control of your fate, consciously planning the course of your life as best as you can, but you are largely unaware of how deeply your emotions dominate you. They make you veer toward ideas that soothe your ego. They make you look for evidence that confirms what you already want to believe. They make you see what you want to see, depending on your mood. And this disconnect from reality is the source of the bad decisions and negative patterns that haunt your life. Rationality is the ability to counteract these emotional effects, to think instead of react, to open your mind to what is really happening, as opposed to what you are feeling. It does not come naturally. It is a power we must cultivate. But in doing so, we realize our greatest potential. The inner Athena. One day toward the end of the year 432 BC, the citizens of Athens received some very disturbing news. Representatives from the city-state of Sparta had arrived in town and presented to the Athenian governing council new terms of peace. If Athens did not agree to these terms, then Sparta would declare war. Sparta was Athens' arch enemy, and in many ways its polar opposite. Athens led a league of diplomatic states in the region. While Sparta led the confederation of oligarchies known as the Peloponnesians. Athens depended on its navy and on its wealth. It was the preeminent commercial power in the Mediterranean. Sparta depended on its army. It was a total military state. up until then. The two powers had largely avoided a direct war because the consequences would be devastating. Not only could the defeated side lose its influence in the region, but its whole way of life could be put in jeopardy. Certainly for Athens, its democracy and its wealth. Now, however, war seemed inevitable, and a sense of impending doom quickly settled on the city. A few days later, the Athenian assembly met on Pikes Hill overlooking Archopolis to debate the Spartan ultimatum and decide what to do. The assembly was open to all male citizens, and on that day, close to 10,000 of them crowded on a hill to participate in the debate. The hawks among them were in a state of great agitation. Athens should seize the initiative and attack Sparta first, they said. Others reminded them that in a land of battle, the Spartan forces were nearly unbeatable. Attacking Sparta in this way would play straight into their hands. The doves were all in favor of accepting the peace terms, but as many pointed out, that would only show fear and embolden the Spartans. It would only give them more time to enlarge their army. Back and forth went the debate, with the motions getting heated, the people shouting, and no satisfactory solution in sight. Then toward the end of the afternoon, the crowd suddenly grew quiet as a familiar figure stepped forward to address the assembly. This was Pericles, the elder statesman of Athenian politics, now over 60 years old. Pericles was beloved, and his opinion would matter more than anyone's. But despite Athenians' respect for him, they found him a very peculiar leader, more of a philosopher than a politician. To those old enough to remember the start of his career, it was truly surprising how powerful and successful he had become. He did nothing the usual way. In the earliest of their democracy, before Pericles had appeared on the scene, the Athenians had preferred a certain personality type in their leaders. Men who could give an inspiring, persuasive speech and had a flair for drama. On the battlefield, these men were risk takers. They often pushed for military campaigns that they could lead, giving them a chance to gain glory and attention. They advanced their careers by representing some faction in the assembly. Landowners, soldiers, aristocrats, and doing everything they could do to further its interests. This led to high, devastative politics. Leaders would rise and fall in cycles of a few years. But the Athenians were fine with this. They mistrusted anyone who lasted long in power. The Perseals entered public life around 463 BC, and the Athenian politics would never be the same. His first move was the most unusual of all. Although he came from an illustrious aristocratic family, he allied himself with growing lower and middle class of the city. Farmers, oarsmen in the navy, the craftsmen who were the pride of the Athens. He worked to increase their voices in the assembly and give them greater power in the democracy. This was not some fall faction he now led, but the majority of Athenian citizens. It would seem impossible to control such a large, unruly mob of men with their varied interests. But he was so fervent in increasing their power that he slowly gained their trust and backing. As his influence grew, he started to assert himself in the assembly and alter its policies. He grew against expanding Athens' democratic empire. He feared the Athenians would overreach and lose control. He worked to consolidate the empire and strengthen existing alliances. When it came to war and to serving as a general, he strove to limit campaigns and to win through maneuvers with minimal loss of lives. To many, this seemed unheroic. But as these policies took effect, the city entered a period of unprecedented prosperity. There were no more needless wars to drain the coffers, and the empire was functioning more smoothly than ever. What Perseus did with growing surplus of money startled and amazed the citizenry. Instead of using it to buy political favors, he initiated a massive public building project in the Athens. He commissioned temples, theaters, and concert halls, putting all of Athenian craftsmen to work. Everywhere one looked, the city was becoming more subliminally beautiful. He favored a form of architecture that reflected his personal aesthetics, ordered highly geometric, monumental, yet soothing to the eye. His greatest commission was that of Parthenon, with its enormous 40-foot statue of Athena. Athena was the great spirit of Athens, the goddess of wisdom and practical intelligence. She represented all of the values Pericles wanted to promote. Single-handedly, Pericles had transformed the look and spirit of Athens, and it entered a golden age in all of the arts and sciences. What was perhaps the strangest quality of Pericles was his speaking style, restrained and dignified. He did not go in for the usual fights of rhetoric. Instead, he worked to convince an audience through airtight arguments. This would make people listen closely. As they followed the interesting course of his logic, the style was compelling and calming. Unlike any other leaders, Pericles remained in power year after year, decade after decade, putting his total stamp on the city in his quiet, unobstructive way. He had his enemies. This was inevitable. He had stayed in power so long that many accused him of being a secret dictator. He was suspected of being an atheist, a man who scoffed at all traditions. That would explain why he was so particular. But nobody could argue against the results of his leadership. All right. Well, that's going to be it. I didn't get through the whole chapter. I think this is a little good place to stop. I just got to remember it's going to be page 16. And I start at and so now. All right.